How old were you?
That was 24.
24.
Yeah.
Nice.
23, 24, something like that.
So it's like when you initially started the construction?
Correct.
Right.
So I did like a full year of just sole proprietorship, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I established a business. But essentially, the way I treated it was I went in there and I printed out a bunch of sheets and like made it seem like I've been doing this for a long time. And I just kind of came to him. I showed him like, yeah, this is a schedule.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. But that's all you have, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was $1 million project too.
Wow.
So for the first project, not even a business, nothing. So I had to handle $1 million project.
How does it feel? Like $1 million? Did you land the project?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we're still friends. He's my mentor to this day. We went out to dinner last week and the week before, and he's giving me a ton of work.
And that was your first project?
That was my first project. Wow. It was a full rebuild on a house, remodel, and also the ADU in the back.
You were only 24?
Yeah.
And that's how you got started?
Yeah, it was also like schooling. I was getting paid to get schooled, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, and so I formatted it in a safe way where I sold it to him where, hey, I'm going to save you money.
Right.
And I just want to make sure I get this salary essentially every month, right? Or like a salary or like this payment for my fees. And so that gave me the liberty, job security, and also the schooling, and also the lessons, education to be able to learn the construction field.
Welcome to the Limitless CEO podcast. Today we have Brandon Lurssen. He's coming from OC, and I met this guy at the Driven Inner Circle. Thank you, Brandon, for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
He's a great guy. He's a construction guy, and he's doing big things. And can you tell us a little bit about your story? Introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do? A little bit about your story.
So, yeah, I'm Brandon at Daunton on Instagram. And I feel like I'm just kind of getting started overall. Over the last few years, I started my construction company. And I've been doing travel. I did like volunteer travel internationally, just as like my university in a sense. Right. I went to school for finance, and I do also some development deals.
Awesome.
So flips and whatnot.
So volunteer traveling, what does that looks like?
There's this like website called IVHQ that you that you go in and you pretty much. Sorry, this is kind of throwing me off.
Yeah, no problem.
The IVHQ. So I used to, when I got out of high school, I fell into like a little bit of depression with my parents getting divorced and whatnot. And so I started just traveling and just helping people and going to different countries, Costa Rica, Morocco, Spain. Yeah, a couple different places.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So, but why do you do this? Is something someone in your family was doing? Something just came to mind?
I feel
or
like...
what's the purpose behind it?
What happened was I feel... when you fall into a hole, you start thinking like, how do I get out of it? And the one thing that came to mind was, well, help others. And so that's what gave me a little bit of life.
Right.
And it also taught me a lot because I never really traveled. I never got out. I never met different cultures. So that really helped me open my mind and see how other people live.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like seeing how other people live, especially in different countries.
Yeah.
Different religion, different practices.
Yeah.
But take us a little bit further back. Like, where are you from? Were you born and raised in Orange County? Or what does that look like?
So the little small town called Palmdale up north. I grew up there. Small town. I feel it's like a black hole. It's really hard to get away from.
Yeah.
And it's like, I call it a black hole because once you're in there, it's hard to get out.
Right.
And so when I turned 19, I moved out. I got my own place. I was doing some marketing for a couple of companies. And I went to Los Angeles. And so that's when I started going into construction. My dad is in construction, so I jumped into the company and started doing a couple things with him.
Nice.
And had to jump out.
So are you married? Do you have any kids? What does that look like?
Single and with dogs.
Nice. Are you looking for someone?
When it comes at the right time.
Right.
I feel like I got to build myself up a little bit more. So I'm not really looking even, but it's like I feel like you get to a position where you start thinking, am I set up to be the person that I want someone else to have? And you got to love yourself first. So,
right.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by loving yourself? Is it like working out or taking care of yourself, self-development? What does that look like?
So I feel like once you develop yourself enough and you feel like you're mentally strong and you can carry the dreams that you want to carry, or you can at least establish that momentum, both physically, mentally, and professionally.
Right.
I feel like that's the point where you're ready for somebody. At least I feel like that should really be the point.
I agree, 100%.
But also, you can't ignore love, right? So if it happens earlier, it happens earlier.
Yeah, you never know when that's gonna come by. Like for me, it was like quick.
Yeah.
And then I blink. And what are some of your dreams? You talk about dreams.
My dreams are, I feel I want to be a limitless CEO, right? I don't want to have any limits. And I feel, so over the last few months, I've been doing a lot of mentorships and talking to people like you.
Nice.
And it's created this burst of the ceiling where I can imagine a little bit bigger. So it's like that idea of being able to see somebody that does a lot more and creates a lot better things with their time. We all have the same 24 hours. Why is this guy doing 100 million and I'm doing, so-and-so?
Right.
So I feel like my dream is to really escape that mentality and break that ceiling.
I agree 100% with you because when you get surrounded with like-minded people, and not only like-minded, but people that are bigger, you're thinking about like, how am I going to get to like $10 million? And then you meet this type of people that are making $10 million in one day. And you're like, shit, man.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? Like I'm taking all this action, but I don't have that right information. But when you get surrounded with these people and you change your social circle, that's when you start learning, okay, maybe I could do this or maybe I can do that. So you start like opening your eyes and then your belief goes up. So when you have a higher belief, you're able to do more.
Yeah.
And when you're doing more, you're making more money.
Correct.
And then you start building the skill sets. And then people start, like for me, people start asking me, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I always have the answer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, yeah, I think I know a little bit more. But I'm always like you. Like, I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
Like, I don't consider myself better than anyone else. It's just everybody has a different path.
Yeah.
Like, I'm probably on the 10 rep, and then maybe other people on the 20 rep, on the 30 rep, whatever it is. But I'm always, like, humble to learn and coachable from other people, even from you. Like, earlier, we were talking about construction. You just told me, oh, yeah, I know the plumbers, I know electrical, I know all this stuff. So just being surrounded with people like you, that's going to elevate you to a different level.
I love that. And that's very true. And the rep thing, I think, is very true, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, when we went out to go work out, I was like, fuck, man, I'm so weak.
Yeah.
This guy's putting 10 plates on the bar. And I'm like, oh, man, I really got to get up there. But I'm sure somebody comes in and they put double what you're putting in.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, oh, shit.
Definitely.
I really got to start working.
They put double the plates and they're smaller.
And they're smaller. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that goes with life in general now.
Yeah,
So,
no, 100%.
It's not about seeing the grass is greener, but it's more about, how much greener can I get my own grass? And it doesn't matter. You have the grass already. It's already in your front yard. Just water it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking for the green grass.
Yeah.
But you already have a green grass. Why go somewhere else? You can work on whatever you're doing. And that's the same thing that happened even to me. Like a year ago, when I started all this social media thing, I was like getting offers. Oh, we're going to do this. So I started doing like something over here. Then I started doing something else. But I'm already running business. So we have 3 different businesses. So if I just do whatever I'm doing now, I'm going to do more.
Yeah.
And then I got offers. You want to do this? I'm like, I know that's a good opportunity. That's a great opportunity. And I'm going to be making money. But if I stick to whatever I'm doing now, I'm going to make more money. So sometimes you got to say no.
Yeah.
I know sometimes they say, yeah, you want to commit and then figure it out. But you want to commit in the right directions.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to write your priorities, making sure what is your why, what is your vision, what is your path like, what do you want, who do you want to mimic, who do you want to be? Like, because there's different drivers for different people. Like for you, maybe it's like working out, finding your love. For other people can be like spending more time with the family. For other people on different stages, like people like they're barely getting started and nothing comes from just like this.
Yeah.
There's no like such things as luck. Yeah. You have to put in the work. So after putting in the work, I'm not saying to put in the work and grind down to the floor 24 hours a day for 20 years, but I know I did it, but finding the right mentor, finding the right people, getting the right people in your circle, you're still gonna have to put in the work, but it's gonna be faster. Right?
Very true. Yeah, and I really align with that too. With getting distracted is huge.
Oh,
having clarity is so important. That's been the later part of this year, right? The last few months have been the biggest thing for me. It's finding that clarity, because earlier I feel like most constructions are really hard in a difficult field,
right?
Especially for anybody that doesn't. The funny thing is, I did finance. I went to school. I learned all the books on how to create a business. Mm-hmm. But when you're in the weeds, all you're thinking about is operations, getting money in. And so a lot of people in construction, what they do is, I feel like they get worn down in any business, right? But there's something about at least general construction that's so broad that makes it very difficult, even for companies to scale. General construction is very tough. Like you look at plumbers, you look at electricians, much more scalable. They do one trade. When you have to do all trades and you have to deal with different types of homes, commercial buildings, it's really hard to scale. So I feel that really compounds.
Why do you think it's harder to scale a business like a General B, like something that is generic, than just focusing on one thing? Like you mentioned plumbing, you mentioned painting. Why do you think it's harder to scale something like that?
Like I've had the ambition of going in and like I love the engineering part of it. I love learning all the nooks and crannies of the nuts and bolts that it takes to create a building, the all the background stuff, the city planning, the architecture. And so I feel if somebody doesn't have that, which if it's not your own business, it's really hard to systematize it and to automate it to people. And so when you're jumping around from like a commercial to residential and different types of residentials, it's really hard to just have one plan for every person to check off those boxes. So that's why I'm jumping into ADUs specifically and only.
Right.
Yeah.
You're finding your niche, something that you know how to do.
Correct.
Something you're an expert on, something you can excel. That's awesome.
Something I could just say, take this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. This is how you create an ADU. This is how you create this system, and then just do it again and again and again.
Duplicate it.
Yeah.
Duplication. And that's the way you scale.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what got you to construction? How do you start construction? Because you look young, bro. How old are you? Like 20, 22? 25?
No. Just turned 29.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's because you work out.
It's the fajas.
Definitely.
No, but I feel it's so funny how time passes. Like 2 seconds ago, I was 24, 25.
Right.
I started the business at 25, and I was just in the weeds trying to make it work, right? Worried about operations, and I was also going to school at the same time.
Right.
And I feel like even stuck in relationships or being in relationships during the time also takes a lot of time and also
a lot of dedication.
Comfort.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I feel like in 2 seconds I was from, man, I'm young doing what I'm doing to shit, I'm hitting 30. Right. So, and it's just self-development. I feel it's I found the interest. So what happened when I scaled away from my father's business was I found a mentor.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a mentor. It was my first client who's a mentor now. And we were doing a big project in Anaheim. And then he was just up the street. And the way he came by and he needed a contractor for his next door property. And I had never taken a job on by myself.
How old were you?
That was 24.
24.
Yeah.
Nice.
23, 24, something like that.
So it's like when you initially started the construction?
Correct.
Right.
So I did like a full year of just sole proprietorship, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I established a business. But essentially, the way I treated it was I went in there and I printed out a bunch of sheets and like made it seem like I've been doing this for a long time. And I just kind of came to him. I showed him like, yeah, this is a schedule.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. But that's all you have, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was $1 million project too.
Wow.
So for the first project, not even a business, nothing. So I had to handle $1 million project.
How does it feel? Like $1 million? Did you land the project?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, we're still friends. He's my mentor to this day. We went out to dinner last week and the week before, and he's giving me a ton of work.
And that was your first project?
That was my first project.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a full rebuild on a house, remodel. and also the ADU in the back.
You were only 24,
Yeah.
and that's how you got started,
Yeah. It was also like schooling. I was getting paid to get schooled, essentially.
right?
Yeah. And so I formatted it in a safe way where I sold it to him where, hey, I'm going to save you money.
Right.
And I just want to make sure I get this salary essentially every month, right? Or like a salary or like this payment for my fees. And so that gave me the liberty, job security, and also the schooling, and also the lessons, education to be able to learn the construction field.
So what were you going to school for? Construction?
Finance.
Oh, finance.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I still love to this day. Yeah.
Right.
But, and then in finance, you learn all about business. So yeah, that was fun. That was a nice project.
Yeah.
And so from A to Z, I mean, from demo, from closing the contract all the way to closing the certificate of occupancy. So it was a big lesson.
All right. And how do you get into construction?
So,
Because you were 24, and like, what got you into construction? Were you looking into other businesses, or what did you do before you were 24?
so
Like before getting
that,
right into construction?
I was doing, so I went to school and I didn't know, I thought I wanted to be like an engineer, like an electrical engineer. Then I started seeing a lot of the math and a lot of the intricacies inside of engineering. And I was like, no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I have more creativity in me. And so I went into business, and then I did an internship for a marketing company. And then from that internship, I started working for ServPro as marketing for them. So that was, ServPro is a restoration company.
Yep.
So that's into construction. The one thing I didn't want to do is jump into my dad's business from the get-go. Like my brother had jumped into it, and I was like, I don't want to do that. It's going to slow me down. It's not going to teach me things. I'm going to soften up.
What was your dad doing?
General construction.
Oh, okay.
He does a lot of hillside.
Yeah.
He does a lot of like hillside, bigger projects, working with engineers and all that stuff.
So you got it from your dad, like from back in the days, like
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I stemmed from that job in Anaheim.
Right.
But I tried.
So that job in Anaheim that you got the $1 million deal, were you working with your dad with it, or it was all your?
No, that was all me. I was working on a property with my dad down the street, and then that's when the client came in, and my dad was like, "I don't have any time. Can you go see the client?" And then he wasn't interested. He wanted a bigger margin, and it didn't work out.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to take it, because I tried scaling his company. I tried doing everything I want to do to my business. I tried doing it to his, and he's stuck in old ways.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, this is my exit.
Right. So at this time, you're not working with your dad. He has his own company. You have your own company.
Funny enough, he asked me, he pays me now for some management practices now.
Oh, really?
So now he's come around and he's like, I need management.
He came back to you?
Yeah, he comes back to me. And so he'll pay me for some things that he needs help with in like general management, computer work, essentially.
Right.
So
you said that time flies from like when you started your company when you were 24 to like when you were 29 now.
Yeah, 25 is when.
So what did you do from those 4 years? Why do you think time flies so fast? Didn't you take advantage, or you were living the good life, or what was it like?
I was
or what would you do differently?
Yeah, what would I do differently? That's a good question.
Yeah. Because I feel like everybody goes through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just like doing your thing and you're an autopilot, and all of a sudden it's 1 year, nothing happens, and then another year. And that happened to me, actually.
Yeah.
When I was younger. I was working since I was 11, 12. All of a sudden I was 19. I'm like, shit. And that's when I'm like, okay, I need to like work for someone else.
Yeah.
And I started working for this other company. And then with a different mentality, obviously, I was working out. I was having the right habits, the right information, the right people, right connections, growing, keeping my mindset open, keeping my belief higher. And then I started my company. But yeah. I feel like I lost too much time, like 9, 10 years. Why do you think that happened to you? Just for the audience, for people they're just
you know what, you're very right.
Went to the house,
yeah,
football game, Netflix shows. They're just chilling.
I think because I was the young contractor that was dealing with $1 million jobs, I felt like
you're complacent.
I was doing good. Yeah, I feel like I'm good. I'll have this one job, or I'm doing this much a year, and I felt good about it, and I felt it was just enough to make me comfortable.
Right.
It was just enough to make the ego comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I had to work, if it was 8, 10, 12, or 4 or 3 hours, whatever it was, to keep that, complacency, everything else was essentially just, it wasn't to focus on the business or grow on it. It wasn't to focus that I need more. It was that I was complacent
Right.
for a couple of years. And I think that's really what it comes down to, complacency.
But do you have any plans on doing something else? Were you sitting on like tabling other projects, or it was just complacent? You're selling. You don't have a goal to continue growing. It's just living the life.
I tried doing in the last few years, I tried doing like a marketing company. Like I told you, like I had this warehouse as an office. So before I was subleasing it, I had bought all this equipment to start marketing, but I didn't have enough time to just simply dive into it myself. So I hired some people that I knew that were in that business, but it didn't end up working. Right. But it was because I felt like I wanted to just plug and play, right? I have all the tools, I have all the equipment, right? We just need to sell. Anything is selling, right? You buy at this point, you sell at this point. So I thought that was as simple as it was. But I realized that it's not just about putting in the capital and having the idea. It's about being completely committed to making it successful. So I also tried doing like a Uber rideshare, Turo. So I had bought in a couple of vehicles. And again, I tried automating it to the side. So here's the capital, make it work. Didn't work. So there's a couple of things that I tried overall, and it just never worked because the clarity and the commitment to that business wasn't there.
So you mentioned that you started all these companies and you were trying all these things out. And I know a lot of people do that. And it's great because if you want to do that, it's at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like in the early stages. A lot of people ask me, what is the biggest advice? Most of the people say, get a mentor. But yeah, get a mentor, but try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Try a bunch of shit. Because what can go wrong? Nothing. Like you're 19, you're already broke. So just keep doing it, keep trying shit. And when you find the right thing, then that's when you get a mentor. Because you know you want to go that path.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people find what mentor? Like the mentor that has everything you want to have.
Yeah.
But first try a bunch of shit, 50, 80, 100 times. And then from there, you find whatever you want to do. Yeah. Then you keep trying, keep failing with the mentor.
Yeah.
And then you're already broke. And then I think that's the fastest way to grow. But why do you think you tried all these things you mentioned and it didn't work out? Why do you think it didn't work? Is it because you're not passionate for that, whatever you were doing? Or it's just something else? Or you were not dedicating enough time?
I know.
What do you think was the biggest factor?
For a fact, I know it was that I felt like the capital was enough to get something going. Right. And it wasn't. It never was. And so like last year too, I dove into doing some flips in Texas. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do something radical, some big change, something to get me out of my comfort zone and start producing a lot of different things. So I went to Texas and I started flipping some houses. And the reason why I wanted to do that was to knock myself out of this idea of being too complacent. Right. And so I started flipping houses over there so there was two things that knocked the complacency out. One was it's in a different state, you can't see it. And then two, the market was terrible, right? Or the rates had gone up.
When was this?
This was around July last year, 23.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. The rates were high. They were like at 7.5.
But in my head, it was like, I have every reason not to do it, which is why I should do it. So that's why I did it.
What was like the biggest challenge? Or what would you do different? Like you're in the real estate market. What are some of the pointers for the real estate people out there, the $1 million mistakes that you don't want to make? Like, what would you tell them not to do? Even if the interest is high, even if the market is low or is high, whatever it is, inflation.
Well, one, I think I don't regret it because I did it. So I think the biggest mistake you can do is not do it.
Not do it.
And it's very hard to lose in real estate. Mm-hmm. So if you don't try... So I don't regret it one bit. Like the first property, I lost a bunch of money, but I'm still happy I did it because I got so the clarity I had was to do it and knock myself out of complacency, which is exactly what I did. So number one is just do it, try it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do
Nike. I'm just
playing. But number two is also, always know your numbers, of course. Definitely know your numbers, know your market. And then don't think that you know it all. Like trust in the professionals, trust do your research. Right. Know what the city needs, know what the contractors need, know what the realtors need. Meet with all of them beforehand and make a game plan. Because if you just buy something blindly, maybe you won't fail at the first, but you'll fail at the second or the third.
Right.
So,
And this is for flips?
this is for flips.
Right.
And real estate in general, I feel, because,
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, do the research, do your ARV, after repair value, your comparisons. It's always on the buy. I think it's always on the buy, because if you buy at a good price, then there's only room for growth. So whatever you put in there, it's just going to grow.
but it's also in the opinion, right? Is it a good buy? So a lot of people coming from California to Texas, they think everything's a good buy.
Right. If
So
it's fully done, fully refurbished.
Well, because they look at the property, it's like, oh, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $200, $150, $180, $300,000. That's a great value compared to California. So you have to do your research in that area.
And like what type, like let's say we go to residential, like what type of structures do you think are the more profitable? Is it just buying the land and then doing new construction? Is it buying a house that is already built, that is a 1950 or whatever, and you fix? And then what type of like structures, like stucco? We have siding, we have French windows and vinyl. What do you think is the best way? Because I see a lot of properties, like for instance, my sister, she just bought a house. But she bought a house and now she's replacing the siding, replacing the roof, replacing all these things. Do you think it's just better to buy stucco surfaces or siding, or what are your thoughts on that? I
think it's a good mixture of both. Here in California, that's one thing I like about going to Texas too. I saw a lot of the differences in design.
Right.
I think it's a good mixture of both is great. Now modern Los Angeles architecture design is all stucco. I don't think that's great either. Okay. I think a mixture of both is good. If like you want to get a return on the house, you got to make it look a little bit different. So you got to trust a good designer, look at some of the houses that are selling very, very well. And so, yeah. But a good investment property, I think if you're going into it first time, definitely don't try to build from land. Try to build because there's a lot of factors that come into play when you're just buying land and you're building ground up. But get an old property. Do wholesale. Go into a wholesale company. Get the right numbers. Don't trust the numbers that the wholesale company gives you for comps. Do your own comps. Look at the properties. Drive by, or even go through Google Earth, right? Drive by with virtually. But don't trust their numbers. Make your own numbers.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your construction company.
Yeah.
What's the name of your construction company? What do you guys focus on? Well, you said ADU, but like, what do you guys do? Where are you guys based?
So Melior Building Co, Melior Building Company. Melior stands for Meliorism. It's like pessimism, optimism. There's Meliorism. It's not a common word, but what it stands for is essentially believing that man can create greater good.
Right.
So that's why I chose that name. But we are in Fullerton, and we do general construction, focusing on ADUs, accessory dwelling units, garage conversions, new builds, that sort of thing.
What are some of the things that people that don't know, like let's say they have a land, should they reach out to you, or like, what is like the average cost on an ADU? I know it's kind of hard to say, but let's say a two bedroom, 1 bathroom, something simple.
So if you're doing, the best thing is a lot of California homes, Southern California homes will have a garage, an existing garage that's either attached from the property or detached. You already have the 4 walls. You already have half of your footings, the engineering that's already done. So if you have one of those, I think it's a no-brainer if you're not really using it and you have the extra space. Get the ADU, convert it it'll cost you around $100,000 to convert a garage conversion. And then the square footage in there, roughly you're looking at 366 to 500 square feet. So multiply that, and it's not determined exactly, but if you multiply that by what your square footage on your house is valued at, so it's $500 a square foot, you multiply that by whatever your square footage is, that gets added to your property value.
So you're making like, it's a no-brainer because let's say you're investing 100 and the cost will go up another 300. So you're making at least $150,000 to $200,000.
Exactly.
Depending on the property.
Immediately.
How long does the process take?
So it takes about, from city, planning will take about 2 to 3 months, right? Because it will take about a month for an architect to get back to you. It'll take about roughly another 2 months for planning and permits. And then it'll take about 4 to 6 months to build.
Okay. That's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
It's about, what, like 10 months to a year?
You can get it done in 1 year.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, if you're going off a loan, You get your loan established once the construction starts. And so you don't even have to, the full percentage that you have to pay on a loan, you don't even accomplish the whole thing. I mean, it's not mature by the end of the construction cost. So it's a no-brainer.
How do you get approved for a loan? Like you're talking about 100,000. Do you do like a construction loan, SBA loan, line of credit, credit card? How does that work? Like people like don't know, and I feel like myself and a lot of people, we don't do it because we don't know.
Yeah.
But like if we know how to do a loan, how to get a loan, how to apply, then I think it's an easy no-brainer. Like if you're making 150,000 in a year, you already have the space for all those people that have a garage. There's thousands of people out there. I mean, how do you get a loan?
So you can do, I mean, there's HELOCs, there's PACE loans, you can refinance. I would go against refinancing. You can do a construction loan.
Okay.
We also offer a lot of different loans that we can go off of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty straightforward for the bank if they know that it's going to cost you $100,000 to build it, and within the year you should have around $350,000 in equity, or sorry, in total cost, right? So $200,000 floating. Then they know for a fact if they put a lien on the house, that they'll be able to at least garner whatever is owed to them. So it's kind of a no-brainer for most banks. But there's tons of different types of ways to go through loans.
And how would people like get started? Is it the initial consultation with Brandon, and then you go to see if you can apply for a loan, or how's that look like? Because you don't want to spend all this time and then you're not gonna get approved.
Correct.
Right.
So so once you reach out to me, I will be able to get you guys started. And essentially, main question would be why you want it, right? We want to understand why you want the ADU so we can better assist you. And if it's for just appraisal value or rental income, we can work some numbers and let you know, right? So my finance background, that's how I see everything. It's more numbers based. So I want to make it sense to you. It has to make sense to me. I want to make it make sense to you as well. And then we can look into financing options once we get a general estimate, and then we can start working on everything else.
How much is the term? Do you have like let's say you're getting a construction loan. Is that like the best bet? Construction loan it's
really case by case.
Case by case.
I would go a loan against your if you have equity. So most people have equity.
Okay. And is it like a 1 year, 6 years, 20 years? What does the interest look like?
You're looking, I would say that a safe place, actually a favorable place would be around 10%.
That's not bad. Is that like a 5 year, 10 year?
10 to 12%. You can do a construction loan for a year, or like the construction loans typically are about 6 to 12 months.
Right.
You can even go up to 5 years, but I wouldn't go to 5 years. I mean, I think you'll be fine with 1 year. Worst case scenario, you can always extend it for a little bit.
How do you pay it off if you don't have the money?
Well, once you refinance, so once the appraisal comes in for your ADU, you can just take that money out and pay it off. Yeah.
Oh, so you refinance the ADU?
You could. I mean, I work with a lot of people that they like to do cash because they don't want to jump too much into the refinancing or into their home value. But that's definitely one way to do it. And that's a no-brainer way to do it, right? So it's essentially no cash out of pocket. You build your ADU, and then now you have a new appraised value, and then that pays for itself.
Right.
And still gets you money in your pocket.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the best qualifier? Like people out there, they're in their house. Anyone that just have a garage, anyone that just has an empty land. Like, what is the best the best properties that you can do this on?
No brainer. I think it's the houses with an existing garage that's facing the front or a detached garage. I think those are no brainers. You're already saving a bunch of money by not having to build the foundation or building the roof or building the walls. You already have all that. I think those people, unless you really need the garage space, I think that's the no brainer way. Other than that, 7,000 square feet lot and up would be definitely ideal.
What about like 'cause in my house I have a 2-story and I already have a garage. What would you do in that case?
So is the garage inside your house?
It's inside the house, but then I have a 2nd story on top.
That's. Do you have how's your yard?
I have a yard on the back. It's not that big, but on the sides, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just thinking, like on top of the head after we're talking, like there's people that have a garage, and they have a 2 stories, so they don't qualify for this.
No, you do.
Okay. Do you extend it to the side?
I would. So yeah. So if you're with those cases, I've never seen anyone that said, like, there's one case that I did where they had the garage and they wanted to convert it, but essentially what they did was they took their existing garage, right? So they have their second story, and they extended it to the front. So into the driveway, they had a pretty big driveway.
Right.
So they extended it to the front,
nice.
and so now their existing garage and the extension is now part of the ADU.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
their garage is like in the front, and they extended the living space.
No
into the
garage anymore. No,
garage.
both spaces are now the ADU, the living space. Yeah,
Nice. So they extended the property,
correct.
and they got rid of the garage.
Correct.
So now they have like an additional like 800 square feet. or
Correct.
Whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to do it. And California has a general rule that everyone, you're allowed your ADUs. Every city will have its own, things to say about it, but generally everyone can have an ADU.
I love it, bro. How long? How is the like the estimating process? Like, let's say they call you, hey, Brandon, can I get a quote? How fast can you go out to the property, and then how fast can people expect their price, and then how fast can you move forward? What does that look like? Like, just for people who are thinking on doing something like this, is it like a 1 week process, 2 weeks? How does that look like?
So number one, my biggest question is number one, financing. Like, what are your financing options? And so, because that's a big factor. I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time. But if someone needs an estimate, I already have estimates built for garage conversions or new ADUs. So
like,
I can get
like
those
a
out.
ballpark or
Yeah,
actual
correct.
numbers. Yeah.
So if you have a garage, I've done several garages. I already have the numbers. I have like what products they might need, right? So we're not going to go super high end. If you want to go higher end, we can talk. It's a different story.
Right.
But I have essentially a ballpark of what the garage conversion would be or a new ADU. So I can get that over within the day if they're ready to go. But the biggest question is really the why, and it's also researching with the city to see, if there's if there's electrical cables overhead and they want to build it in the back. Well, now it's not. It's you have to go farther out from the setback. Right. So if you have your garage, like right now with Palomino's, we were just looking at their garage, but they have overhead lines. So they have their garage here, and it's already set back 4 feet. Now the new addition, I have to set it back an additional 5 feet. Right. And so now it looks kind of like an L. So that's the stuff that really.
But you can still make it work.
We can still make it work.
That's what's important. I love it. Any final remarks? Any final tips? Like any business tips that you want to throw out there? Business tips in the construction area for construction people, for people that were in your shoes when you were 23, 24, 19, and they're like, damn, I want to get into that ADU. I want to really get in there. What should these people do, and how can they get started?
Or like if they want to build?
Yeah, they want to get their license. Like, I don't know what's the first step, like creating your LLC or just studying whatever you have to study about ADUs.
Yeah.
Acquiring your General B license, whatever it is.
So
What are some of the tips? Or some of the books that they can read?
Definitely get some experience in construction. Definitely get into you don't have to do the construction yourself, but you want to look at everybody building. You want to see how they're building the foundation. You want to understand how they're building the framing, how they're finishing the projects. You want to have some personal experience. You want to be in there and actually know how they're building it. And also get involved with a little bit of the engineering, the inspection process, the architecture, read plans, know how to read plans. I think if you're doing that nonstop within 1 year, I think you'll have enough experience to be able to jump into it to where you can, well, technically by the book, you have to do 2 to 3 years of experience, but then you start your S Corp and jump into construction. But really get all the data down. Start looking into data. Don't go home and start focusing on other projects. Focus on the business. Double down, and make sure that you have clarity. So if you want to just do remodels, stick to remodels. Don't spread yourself thin with different types of projects.
I love it. I feel like a lot of people do the same thing. They want to do something and then they start doing a bunch of things. But yeah, by doing what you're supposed to do, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, and just focus on one thing first, get that going, then you can do something else. Because there's so many people like, why am I not growing? Like you're not growing because you're not focusing on the right thing. So focus on one thing, make it grow, become a millionaire, and then go on to the next thing. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So I just started a podcast, Startup Contractor.
Nice.
It's
I want to
just-
be in that podcast too.
You got to get on there,
Yeah.
man.
What is it
Yeah,
called?
Startup Contractor.
Startup Contractor.
And so the whole story with Startup Contractor is
Yeah.
essentially all the crap that I went through, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to do part of one of the things I wanted to do a podcast on was businesses and their downfalls.
Yeah.
But I feel like Startup Contractor would be the efficient way for people to look at a contractor or being in the contractor space, and that they want to grow from there. So Startup Contractor is really dedicated to the downfalls and the highs from other contractors dealing with a lot of crap, and just establishing their goals and executing.
What is the biggest challenge that you've gone through? Now you're saying about the challenges. The biggest challenge that you've been through in the construction.
I think lawsuits are really crappy. Going through lawsuits suck. I think, you taking one on the chin and losing money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to lose money. You have to accept that you're going to lose money on some projects, and you have to cover your ass. But those are all things that are part of the job. I think the real, like if I'm getting really deep, the real thing is really in just staying focused. Mm-hmm. Because again, I think for contractors, if you're just jumping into tenant improvements and you're jumping into remodeling, it's the same thing as looking at different businesses. Mm-hmm. If you're doing gyms and you're doing restaurants, it's two different businesses.
Business is business.
Yeah.
I love it, bro. So people can start you. So that's your podcast, Startup Contractor. And then what else? What other social media platforms?
My personal is at Donsen, Donssen. That's the later part of my first name, the later part of my last name, Donsen. And then Melior Building. So check us out.
It's MeliorBuilding.com.
Melior for the website, yeah. And then
Okay.
the Instagram is Melior Building.
And they're going to be like down here or over here. We're going to list them there. And thank you so much for being here, Brandon. I appreciate you coming on a Saturday from Orange County. I know you're heading down to San Diego, but thank you. And thank you for the audience for chiming in to Limitless CEO Podcast. And I'll see you on the next time. Let's get it.
Let's go. Thank you, brother.
Cheers.